So I really don't know what just happened there. Yeah, really don't know what just happened, guys. I do apologize for that. Fingers crossed I am still around here, that this stream is still working. I'm just checking now. Looks like it is coming back up. This is rather tiresome, I have to say. Okay, we are back. I'm so sorry about that, guys. This was the last thing that was on my screen. So what I'm referring to with this particular, where are we here? Let me just go back. Here we go. Of course, there's no rape culture in our Western societies and no social or legal reward for men who rape. Quite the contrary. In fact, our society strongly condemns rape, which means we don't live in a rape culture. Some feminists nonetheless contend that the so-called subordinate position of females make men naturally inclined to use them for sole sexual pleasure. They support the view that if a woman only happens to feel regret after having a sexual relationship with a man, this can eventually be construed as a form of rape, which, as you and I both know, is completely ridiculous. Following this radical feminist agenda, the New South Wales Liberal government expressed a desire to effectively police every form of sexual conduct between two consenting heterosexual adults. On May 8th last year, Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Minister Prue Goward notoriously stated that such a consensual sexual relationship can be a form of rape unless such consent has been enthusiastically verbalized. You must explicitly ask for permission to have sex. If it's not an enthusiastic yes, then it's a no. Essentially, this is a, oh my God, yes, I want to have sex with you. Or it's nothing. So let's just jump over here for a moment. Now, something you should know about the Australian Law Reform Commission, and you may have noticed that gentleman before, and again, I use that term loosely, that particular individual, Mark Speakman, is from the ALRC. He's the Governor General. So the ALRC is the Australian Law Reform Commission. They undertake research and provide recommendations to reform the law on topics selected by the Attorney General, Mark Speakman, the cock. ALRC recommendations do not automatically become law. However, over 85% of ALRC reports have been either substantially or partially implemented, making the ALRC one of the most effective and influential agents for legal reform in Australia. So this individual is actually very dangerous when it comes to law change if he wants to propose something radical. Now, let's get back to the drug that they're proposing that men take, right? It's called Sertraline, also known as Zoloft. What is it? It's an antidepressant. Before taking this medication, it could give you problems if you've had heart disease, high blood pressure, a stroke, liver or kidney disease, a seizure, bleeding problems, if you take warfarin, bipolar disorder, which is manic depression, or low levels of sodium in your blood. If you miss a dose, you should take the missed dose as soon as you remember. Should not drink alcohol, which means that basically men who have gone through a relationship breakup would not be allowed to drink alcohol. Otherwise, it could impair the effects of the drug. And the side effects can be seizure, convulsions, blurred vision, tunnel vision, eye pain and swelling, headaches, confusion, memory problems, severe weakness, feeling unsteady, symptoms of low levels of sodium in the body, or racing thoughts, increased energy, unusual risk-taking behavior, extreme happiness, being irritable or talkative. So, side effects of Zoloft. Let's have a look at some more, shall we? Sleepiness, drowsiness, tired feeling, nervousness, sleep problems, insomnia, dizziness, nausea, skin rashes, headaches, diarrhea, constipation, upset stomachs, stomach pain, dry mouth, changes in appetite, abnormal ejaculation, impotence, decreased sex drive, difficulty having an orgasm, dry mouth, and weight loss. Right? And weight loss is a cool thing, but not at the expense of all the other things. Now, here's the question of the day. Here's the question of the day. Do antidepressants increase violent behavior? Well, antidepressants are supposed to make people feel happier and more at ease, but a study has linked several prescription antidepressants to an increased risk of violent behavior, including physical assault and homicide. So it would actually appear to have a counterintuitive effect, contrary to what feminists actually want. The December 2010 study from the Institute for Safe Medication Practices found 5 antidepressants to be among the 10 prescription drugs most disproportionately linked with reports of violent behavior. The linking of antidepressants with violent behavior is extremely controversial. Absolutely it is. And by the way, I've realized why my camera keeps going off, because I put W as a shortcut for toggling the webcam on and off, just like this. And of course, every time I go to close another tab, I go Control W. So I'm not going to do that anymore. Here we go. Proposed changes to law could see catfishers charged with sexual assault. So far we've had the drugs. We've had the proposed police monitoring and mental health service monitoring. And now we have catfishers proposed to be charged with sexual assault. So what does that mean to you under New South Wales consent laws? Let's have a look at this. Let's see what Mr. Speakman has to say. So the day after a Four Corners episode aired, where a lady waived her right to anonymity to discuss the acquittal of the person that was acquitted of raping her. I'm not going to go into the details of that case because I don't know enough about it to make accurate comment. But this is what's important in this particular instance in the context of today's video. The day after that episode aired, New South Wales Attorney General Mark Speakman and then Sexual Assault Prevention Minister Prue Goward, who is, by the way, Kate Zipporah's mum, who... well, what did her name used to be? Kate... Zipporah Malka is her new name, but it used to be Kate Fisher, the ex-wife slash fiance, I'm not sure if she ended up getting married to him, of James Packer, very, very wealthy man. Hypergamy. So, and also, by the way, Zipporah Malka admitted on TV that she was physically violent towards her ex-partner and she was an alcohol abuser. And alcohol and drug abuse are, by the way, 2 of the highest predetermining factors for domestic violence against an intimate partner, as per World Health Organization statistics. So Prue Goward announced a review of the sexual consent provisions in the Crimes Act to determine whether the law should be changed to better protect survivors of sexual assault. A draft of that review recommends a number of changes, including a proposal that a person does not freely and voluntarily consent to sex when they are induced by fraud. Our proposal is intended to cover any circumstance in which participation is dishonestly procured by a false representation or upon a false pretense known by the maker to be false when it was made. So if she even assumes that you earn more money than you do, or if she assumes that the job that you described to her is different to what she thought it was, then that would be considered catfishing. If she has sex with you, that would then consider to be consent by fraud, and therefore she wouldn't have given consent, and that's therefore technically rape under these suggestions and these provisions. So let me give you an example of a catfishing instance that occurred in Australia. Catfish stalker who drove a woman to suicide after convincing her she, so it's not a he, it's a she, was home and away heartthrobs Lincoln Lewis may have more victims hidden on her computer. Lydia Abdelmalek, I think it is, Abdelmalek, convinced women she was home and away star. So she was like, this is even worse than makeup, right? Here is the wall smashed individual here. This is Lydia, the catfisher. So under these proposed laws to protect women, she would be liable. But of course, because she, under the Duluth model, is not held accountable for any bad things against women, then of course, she'll probably get a pussy pass and get off with it. And she'll go on to live another day. Now let's get on to what the Australian government defines as domestic violence, because when we're talking about domestic and family violence, it's very important to understand what our government that we pay our tax dollars to, which at the moment aren't giving me a fucking cent towards losing my hours at my job as a result of this coronavirus closing down all of the venues upon government instruction. But that's a topic for another day. Integrated response to domestic violence. Legally mandated intervention programs for male perpetrators. Domestic violence is considered to be one of the major risk factors affecting women's health in Australia. And there is a need for the community to respond in ways that reduce the likelihood of further violence occurring. One way of doing this is to deliver programs that aim to reduce the risk of known perpetrator committing further offences. Now, check this out. Domestic violence is a term that's widely used to refer to the systematic abuse of power in an intimate relationship where one partner is controlling and the other partner is intimidated and lives in fear. Forms of domestic violence include physical violence, emotional and psychological abuse, social abuse and isolation, financial abuse and spiritual abuse, most of which almost every man that's been in a relationship have experienced from women. But I digress, because I just want you to pay particular attention to the terms domestic violence, power, control, intimidation, fear, feelings, emotional and psychological abuse, because these are all feminist tools to control men. You might still be a bit dubious about my claims, but I'll get to it. Just keep watching. Make sure you share this video with everyone as well, by the way, because every single man in the Western world needs to hear this and see this stuff, because this is the feminist infiltration into the family law system and into our governments. Here we go. So this is the Australian Parliament House. Look at this up here, australianparliamenthouse.gov.au. What do we know about domestic violence, right? So domestic violence in Australia, an overview of the issues. What do we know about it? It's a good question. Well, the best indicators apparently available are about the levels of violence against women are from the 1996 ABS publication Women's Safety Survey, and they've got a link to that. And the more recent ABS Personal Safety Survey, which, again, during the ABS Personal Safety Survey, what they found out was, and where do we have there we go. They found out that 3.8 million men have been on the receiving end of violence. 548,000 roughly have been on the receiving end of partner violence since the age of 15. 1.4 million have experienced emotional abuse by a partner since the age of 15. 992,000 roughly, aged 18 years or above, have experienced abuse before the age of 15. 587,000 men roughly have experienced stalking from women. I would say mostly women, maybe a few men, but mostly women. And 2.2 million have experienced sexual harassment during their lifetimes. Now, out of a population of 12.86 million, that's actually a hell of a lot of people. So I just want to leave that there for a bit of context, right? But anyway, 5.8% of women had experienced violence in the 12-month period preceding. 4.7% of these women, of the women who experienced sexual violence. 2005 survey also showed that of the women. Let's just go. Okay, guys, I do apologize. My mic was somehow out. I don't know why. That was kind of weird, but whatevs. I know why it went out. So I hope you didn't miss too much of that, but I hope you could also follow largely what I was saying. Actually, I know exactly why I went out now. I need to kick these short keys off because they're killing my streams. The most pervasive form of violence experienced by women in Australia is violence perpetrated by a male intimate partner, commonly referred to as, and I quote, domestic violence. Oh, it's important to acknowledge that men and same-sex relationship partners can also experience this form of violence. Blah, 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 blah. So much bullshit. Here we go. Best practice models in relation to family violence in Australia. Integrated responses to family violence have flourished since a pioneering model, the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project, was established in Duluth, Minnesota in 1981. The Duluth model. Oh, the Duluth model. We are starting to hover over the target now. We're getting real close. Oh, Duluth model features offenders programs. Take careful note of that also. Let's have a look at what some of these offender programs are. But firstly, Australian government, respect.gov.au, because apparently respect is only one-sided. It's important that we understand the cycle of violence. Not all disrespect towards women results in violence, but all violence against women starts with disrespectful behavior. Of course it does, because it's only ever violence against women. In fact, let's go and have a look at some of these campaign materials here. And I'm sure you guys would have seen this one here. Make sure I got my volume on for the desktop audio. There we go.
It's okay. He's just being a boy.
Don't worry, Mum. I know it's okay for boys to push girls.
Yeah, and when I grow up, I guess it'll be okay if I'm violent with women.
Sorry, that's not what I meant.
Are we teaching them disrespect? Violence against women. Let's stop it at the start. So it's not about respect. It's just about stopping violence against women by controlling men. Here is the other one. The one at the top is just a shorter version.
What happened?
Got detention. Just for flicking up a girl's skirt.
What? That's it.
Doesn't she know that's just boys being boys?
Yeah.
Boys will be
I've already
boys.
accepted that as I grow up, I'll probably be harassed and even abused.
Sorry.
It's not what you meant. Yeah, I know, whatever. He did it because he likes you, because no one stopped him. And this is just all basically woman victim, man bad. Now, the interesting part about this, if you go to the tiny, tiny little copyright and disclaimer right at the bottom here, this actually says, right, this is the Department of Social Services encourages the dissemination exchange of information provided on the website. And the Commonwealth owns the copyright to all the material produced by the department, right? So the Department of Social Services actually produced this. However, they accept no responsibility for the accuracy or completeness of any material on the site. They also disclaim all liability to any person in respect of anything. So basically no accountability for anything they put on there, even though they own the copyright to all of the stuff that they made. Material on the site is made available on the understanding that the Commonwealth is not providing professional advice. Views and recommendations of third parties, which may also be included on this site, do not necessarily reflect the views of the Commonwealth. Interesting. Oh, practicing the Duluth model in our daily work with domestic violence perpetrators. Oh, goody, what's this all about? Here we go. Duluth model is an organizing method that prioritizes women victim survivor safety and perpetrator accountability within a social change framework. It guides facilitators to build interventions that are aligned with the realities of women and victim survivors' daily lives, but not men's lives, because we can't help them. Right? In this, we are going to work towards coordinated community responses for men's behavior change work, including how to strengthen accountability. Only for men, though. And it's $280 plus GST if you want to attend. Of course it is. Now, ANROS, which is the Australian National Research Organisation for Women's Safety. Right? Here we go. Australian National Research Conference on Violence Against Women and Their Children. If we go back here, ANRO supports practitioners working with women and children who experience violence and men who use violence. However, there is no one who works with men and children who have experienced violence and women who use violence. This is the Duluth model here. Now, I'm just going to zoom in here, right? Because this is the website, if you want to go to it and have a look, see what it's all about. This is the Domestic Abuse Intervention Program. All right, so this is what they refer to when they're talking about the DAIP. Physical and sexual violence. So using intimidation, right? Making her afraid by using looks, actions, gestures, smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, displaying weapons. I remember a time personally when I was at work and a girlfriend of mine was angry at me for something I hadn't even done. They just assumed, and they threw a lamp at my TV. Because that's not smashing property or anything, is it? And all those times that women have used emotional abuse by making me feel bad about myself, putting me down. So saying that I'll make a shit dad when I have kids, that I shouldn't reproduce. And, you know, I know I'm going to get all the feminist trolls on this channel here right now saying, oh, well, you know, that's true. So just shut up and take it. But you know what? I've got a hell of a lot of people watching me here right now. So I'm going to beg to differ that it's just me. But anyway, so calling her names. So, you know, I've been called stupid and, you know, ugly before, you know, and maybe I have been stupid at times and maybe I have been a little bit ugly when I haven't, you know, looked after myself. But, you know, I don't really care what anyone else thinks of me. But this is the thing, right? So playing mind games, calling me names, putting me down, smashing my shit. I'm only a quarter of the way through this bad boy. I'm only a quarter of the way through, and I've already got a list this long of shit that women have done to me in the past. Using isolation, controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to. Any of you guys ever had a girlfriend say, you're not going there. You're not going anywhere with him. I don't want you hanging around with them. Right? I don't like them. Right? You know, you're not going to that place. Limiting my outside involvement. Getting upset because you go somewhere without her. That would be there. Using jealousy to justify actions. Oh yeah, that justifies the I don't want you talking to your friend because I'm jealous of her and my insecurity is more important than your freedom, right? Minimizing, denying, and blaming, making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously. Anyone listen to the recording of the Amber Heard tapes with Johnny Depp recently? Oh, don't be such a baby. That's making light of the abuse. Saying the abuse didn't happen. Oh, I didn't punch you, Amber Heard says. Shifting responsibility for abusive behavior, saying she caused it. So, I mean, how many times, guys, have women attacked you or yelled at you and said, well, it's your fault that this happened? Saying he caused it, right? I'm only halfway through this bad boy. I'm not even like 50%. Using children, making her feel guilty about the children. Or making him feel guilty about the children. I've seen that way too many times. Using the children to relay messages. A lot of alienated fathers will be able to relate to that. Using visitation to harass her. So, you know, like the visitation where you control the visitation rights. Where you talk shit to the father on visitation handovers. Where you threaten to take the kids away from dads. Like all the time. Just because you didn't get as much money as you wanted. Or just because your feelings are hurt. Or just because coronavirus. And it's not safe even though it totally is. Using male privilege. Oh, there's that old chestnut, hey? Male privilege. Good old male privilege. Treating her like a servant. Making all of the big decisions. Acting like the master of the castle. Being the one to define men's and women's roles. Oh, you know, like women saying, well, it's your job to do this. And it's your job to, you know, decide where we're going to go. And, you know, I want you to make the decisions on this, but then you get blamed for making the decisions and acting like the master of the castle, even though you're asked to be the master of the castle. Fuck out of here. Using economic abuse, preventing her from getting or keeping a job. Keeping a job? I mean, I get it, but I mean, I know someone very close to me who didn't want their partner doing a specific job, so they kept getting him to change jobs. It's pretty abusive if you ask me. Giving her an allowance. Oh, like how women that control the purse strings in a house give men an allowance? Like my own father got an allowance from my mother. She wasn't controlling, but you know, under this it is. Under what it's saying here, this is apparently controlling. Not letting her know about or have access to family income. So, I mean, if she's wasting, like if she's going out and spending money on stuff that you don't need, or you got bills to pay, or you got credit cards that are like owing lots of money, and you're trying to get ahead, trying to get the mortgage paid off so the kids will actually have something left by the time you retire, you know, you might not always tell her about extra money that you get from like a divorce settlement or, sorry, from a inheritance or something, because she might be like, well, I want you to buy a bigger house, even though you still got a big ass mortgage, right? But it's none of my business. Using coercion and threats. Making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her. Sound familiar, guys? I'm going to fucking kill you if you do that. I swear to God, I'll rip your balls off. Sound familiar? I'm going to bash the shit out of you when you get home if you're not home in the next 20 minutes. Sound familiar? Making her drop charges. Or making him drop charges against her, or making her do illegal things. What about her making him do illegal things? Like all of the women you see that have gotten their new partners to murder their ex-husbands. Right? Coercive control. Just saying. And this goes on. To stop domestic violence, we need to change perpetrators' behavior. Now, what do they mean by that? Well, they're talking about family violence services for men. Like men's behavior change programs, which are programs for adult men who have used violent or controlling behaviors towards women and or children. The Men's Behavior Change Program aims to encourage men to take responsibility for their use of family violence. No to Violence, ntv.org.au, list of men's behavior change programs. This is government funded, by the way. All of these ones. And this is just Victoria. Relationships Australia, Victoria. New South Wales. Here we go. Baptist Care, Anglicare, Relationships Australia. Tasmania. There's a couple there as well. So men's referral service. You'll quite often notice the men's referral service written at the bottom of articles where men have been abused in a relationship or killed. This is the level of bias. Right? So, men have been abused or killed. Let's tell them how to behave better so they won't get abused or killed. Yeah, sounds like a terrible idea. Here we go. This is Victorian government here, guys. Victorian government. Men's behaviour change programs play an important role in promoting the safety of women and children. No, women's behaviour change programs playing an important role in promoting the safety of men and their children. The purpose of these programs is to initiate a change process in men's behaviour and provide a forum. Of course it is. Of course. Here we go. Men's Line. You'll often see Men's Line at the bottom of articles of men that have been abused or women that have been abused. Basically, any domestic violence article published anywhere in the mainstream media in Australia will have Men's Line on it. You watch. You just remember the name Men's Line and look next time. Men's behavior change programs offer tools for developing better relationships. You will learn non-abusive behavior because apparently we don't already know how to not be abusive, so that you behave differently in the same situations that used to lead to violence. The focus in the groups is on developing a more positive set of behaviors. Even though you're challenged to take responsibility for your behavior, the program models an attitude of respect rather than punishment or shame. So here's the thing with these programs. These particular programs want you to take accountability and admit to using violence. Because then when you've admitted to using violence, then that can be used against you in family law proceedings by the feminist government. Here we go. Annual reports from NTV. Australasian report on Australasian working together to end men's family violence conference 2019. I haven't even looked at this. Oh God, do I want to? Oh God. I'm not... Sorry for using the Lord's name in vain to those of you who are religious watching. Here we go. Through the men's referral service, we talk with men and refer them into behavior change programs. Get the fuck out of here. Relationships Australia Victoria. What is a men's behaviour change program? Men wanting to end their use of controlling and abusive behaviours. Relationships Australia Tasmania. Men's programs for men who have hurt or abused their partners. Relationships Australia. Men's behaviour change program called Taking Responsibility for Respectful Relationships in Wagga Wagga. So that's the Canberra region one. Another Victoria, support for fathers. Oh, that's nice. Read more. Here we go. Men's counselling. There it is. There it is. Relationship skills and family violence prevention services. That's where it is. Renovate your relationship. Oh, that should be good. I'm going to check that out later. Taking responsibility, a course for men. Of course they have to take responsibility so they can get fucked over in family court. No to violence training. Here we go. We offer a range of quality training packages which reflect our position as the only organisation Australia-wide specialising in responding to men's family violence. Introduction to working with men who use family violence, 2-day training. So who else offers this training? Training.gov.au, you know, a joint initiative of the Australian and state territory governments. Starting to get hungry here, which is why I'm fumbling a bit, so I apologise. Graduate Certificate in Men's Behaviour Change, Individual and Group Work Interventions. Joanne Campbell. Oh, I wonder what she looks like. You know what? You guys can look it up yourself because I don't want to keep this dragging on too long. Here we go. University Graduate Certificate in Facilitating Men's Behaviour Change. Men's Behaviour Change Program. Are you getting angry and annoyed with ones you love? Men's Behaviour Change provides an opportunity to develop more satisfying relationships. Here we go. Learn non-abusive behaviour. Because apparently all men are abusive by default. And this is the Duluth model page, which you would have seen earlier on the power and control wheel. What is the Duluth model? And men's behaviour change, men who batter, men's non-violence, blah, 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 blah. There's the wheels. Equality, shared responsibility, economic partnership, non-threatening behaviour, all shaming language. That's the wheel there. All right, duluthmodel.org. Told ya. Now, what part are the universities playing in all this? Domestic and family violence. So, let me first explain to you what this particular page is about. So, first of all, it explains roughly what it is up here. So, pattern of coercive tactics, which include all the stuff on the power and control wheel, yada, yada, yada. They've included LGBT and inclusion because apparently someone must have got butthurt that they weren't included in this because it wasn't there before. So, someone's obviously raised it. And then you get up to 15 days of domestic violence leave from the university if you need to get free legal and support services to fleece your husband of his house and his kids and everything else that you need while he tries to work to pay for everything. Employee assistance program. Your supervisor may require you to furnish evidence to support any period of absence exceeding 3 days. So looks like some people have been abusing that. And just saying, well, I was abused, so I needed leave. But, you know, they can't get away with that anymore. At least they can only surmise that's what happened and that's why that was included. 1-800-RESPECT, Domestic Violence Service Directory. I'll get to that in a moment. DV Alert Training. Here we go. Charles Sturt University has partnered with Lifeline to run a free 2-hour interactive presentation to staff and students. This training is funded by the Department of Social Services. You know that one? The one where I got all those stats from? Yeah, that same Department of Social Services under the same plan. At the end of the awareness session, attendees will identify the different signs and forms of abuse that constitute domestic and family violence and familiarize themselves with the cycle of violence and Duluth wheels. Power and control. Remember how I told you to remember those words? Power and control. Equality and empowerment. Sound like feminist rhetoric to you? External resources. Let's have a look at these external resources, shall we? So there's Our Watch. which is the national leader in the primary prevention of violence against women and their children in Australia. Men in Focus, unpacking masculinities. In fact, the real issue is violence against women, which is preventable. That's the only issue. There's no other issues, just that. And apparently it's all due to gendered issues, because man bad, and they have an intersectional approach to preventing violence against women. Well, isn't that nice? Let me have a quick look at this, right? Workplace equality and respect. So they've actually got a couple of different websites. So there's that. Workplace violence prevention, because apparently everyone's bashing each other in the workplace as well. Or apparently that's just, I'm going to guess it's just people hurting each other's feelings. Respectful relationships program. How your school can promote gender equality and create an Australia free from violence. They've got support for staff and students. So they're basically providing tools for people to indoctrinate the kids. But you guys can check out that at education.ourwatch.gov.au. Look at all that stuff there. And we've also got media making change, and this is perhaps the most pervasive. The media can use its influence to change the culture and attitudes that drive violence against women. It can also drive hysteria, like the hysteria around coronavirus right now. And I'm not going to get too much into that because that's a very difficult issue to talk about. But what I will show you is this. University media curriculum. Lesson materials. Understanding violence against women. Presentation slides. Download presentation. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hopefully bring this up for just a moment, because this is something you guys have got to see. Let me just add this window to this configuration so you can see it. Window capture. Our watch. Here we go. PowerPoint. Right. So, lesson 1, understanding this issue. Let me just change the size of this and drag it over. Here we go. Myth. Alcohol and drugs are causal factors. Research shows that alcohol and drugs can increase the severity of violence, but is not a causal factor. Most people who drink, including alcoholics, are not violent to their families. Right? Why didn't she leave? What women say. Oh, was that it? Just her and what women say? Nothing about men? Oh, of course, it's gendered. That's right. It's only violence against women that happens. Violence against women is more than just physical and sexual abuse. So this is the, and they're using information from just little snippets from the United Nations Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women. This is just pure indoctrination. Family violence is violence against people in a family setting, also known as violence against women. It's related to family violence, but with a, yeah, anyway, it's just too much bullshit to take, to be honest with you. So, and of course you've got gender equality, you've got professional development, so training for journalists. So if you're a journalist, you can actually go to Our Watch to find out how to report on violence against women. And the media's role in preventing violence against women. Let's change the story. What can the media do? The media can address widespread condoning of violence against women by reporting accurately, safely, and respectfully. Learn about reporting on violence against women. Here's the guidelines. Right, so safety first. Leave out details that might identify survivors. Name the violence for what it is. Violence against women, family violence, psychological violence, elder abuse, child exploitation material, rape and murder. Keep the perpetrator in view. Use active language, e.g. man assaults wife instead of woman assaulted. Where safe/legally possible, name the relationship between victim and perpetrator to remind your audience that most violence against women is perpetrated by someone they know. Anyway, you get the idea, and you can go check this all out at media.ourwatch.gov.au if you want to. It's all there for you. Now, let's quickly look at White Ribbon, which is now defunct. And of course, white ribbon has the power and control wheel. The very same one from the Duluth model website. And I'll prove it. Here we go, duluth-model.org. There it is, right there. Then, of course, we've got 1-800-RESPECT. Domestic and family violence. It's a little bit ungendered in the way that it talks. But when you start to get into it, when you start to dig down, there's a double-edged sword to it. But, you know, this one's a little bit... On the surface, it's a little less obvious. But, you know, I'll get into... So here we go, 1-800-RESPECT. They've got the DAISY app. Right? So DAISY was developed by 1-800-RESPECT and is free to use and download. Now, let's talk about DAISY, which was the same app they referred to on the Charles Sturt University website here, csu.edu.au. DAISY is a free and connects women around Australia to services providing support for the impacts of sexual assault, family violence, and domestic violence. Absolutely zero help for men that are going through the same thing. And it is happening. So if you're feeling unsafe, call the police. Not if you are unsafe, but just if you're feeling unsafe. And of course, then the man will be arrested and you won't have to feel unsafe anymore. But then you still probably will, so you could make further allegations, whatever. It's ridiculous. And by the way, that DAISY app, if you noticed, you skip back in a second, it was made by Medibank, which is this health provider. So if you're currently with Medibank for, you know, your health insurance, you may want to consider changing unless you want to support the feminist agenda, which I don't know anyone who does. Anyway, guys, oh God, a manual for men on how to renovate your relationship. Get fucked. So guys, that's all for today. What did you think? I'd love to get your comments below. If you do want to support this channel, please feel free to head on over to Pure VPN if you need a VPN service. Further down, sydneymigtow.com/brave if you want to try out a new browser other than Chrome but still want to get all the extensions and the same call interface, the same one you saw me using just now. And if you want to donate, head on over to paypal.me/sydneymigtow. If you're wondering why I've got a Bitcoin right at the bottom here, well, you can donate Bitcoin if you want to, right at the bottom of the description. But the main reason I have it here is to encourage all of you to keep an eye on the Bitcoin ups and downs, because right now it is at an historic low in quite some time. And this is the perfect time for you to get your hands on some. I've got CoinSpot and another one. I'm so tired, I forget what it was. Here we go. CoinSpot and Coinbase links down below. So go and check those out if you want to get into some crypto. Anyway, for now, guys, I'm out of here. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. If you want to get some of my merchandise, link is in the description. But I just wanted to say thank you all for supporting me for so long, for following this channel and for sticking it out for the duration of this video. It is definitely worthwhile sharing this with other men because they need to know what they're up against. So smash the thumbs up, leave a comment, share this video, and I will hopefully catch you in the next video. Peace.